Welcome to our Star Trek Discovery After Show. It's been a while, but we're back in style, just like the Chipmunks. I am Christian Bladt, as always, joined by Nikki Bailey.
Hey, hey.
And yeah, we are recapping they always do things, they'll call it like season 4.5. So we're doing the first two episodes of the second half of season 4 of Discovery, episodes 8 and 9. All in and Rubicon. Sometimes they make it where there's no way I can remember the titles of the episodes. So if they keep it to one or two words, I'm going to actually remember. Let's we should look at them individually. We'll probably do about 25 minutes or so on each one. But let's talk about All In first. What was your favorite part of that episode? Because I start that way because I think it's the same as mine.
For me, it was Owu fighting.
Yep. I was watching that. I'm like, yeah, this is great. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I think Nikki's gonna like this. I was like, you didn't really take out a lot of that other stuff. I didn't need the poker, you know. I mean, I
yeah,
know whatever the card game was that they were playing.
yeah. No, it was so much fun to get to know her a little bit better, and also to see her kick some ass.
Yes, exactly. And I just said we're going to focus individually on these episodes, but these two episodes did finally give us more, not a ton in episode 9, but we at least got more of the crew that's like, yeah, those people we've been hanging out with for 4 years that we barely know. At least we got some of that. And yeah, I think that that was a high point of that episode. Whenever they go somewhere like that, like, it's like, you know, a casino, or they go to any kind of, I'll use the term wretched hive of scum and villainy, because it always feels like Star Wars. It never feels like Star Trek when they go to that.
Absolutely does.
Yeah.
Absolutely does. Yeah.
And I mean, I liked the guy who ran the place, who's working them both off of each other, and it's like, oh yeah, and then we got these Emerald Chain people too. So look, I'm just gonna give it to the people who have the most money. How about that? So yeah, I thought it was interesting, and the I don't know, I again, both of these episodes, it was focused first on this first one, but it's like a lot of times, book, I'm just like, how are you getting taken for a ride by this guy? I mean, I know you feel bad that your planet got destroyed and you don't want that to happen to anyone else. But I don't know. It's like a door-to-door salesman said, like, I can help you with that, you know?
Especially since he knows that Tarka's real desire is the power source,
Yeah.
not actually saving billions of lives. How is he letting him go that far? I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, that's the thing with Tarka. It's like, if he's able to get his power source and not do any of the stuff that he promised Book, it's like, oh, I could just get that. Yeah, that I don't need to do anything with the DMA, you know. And I mean, and when we talk about episode 9, we'll see that that didn't necessarily pay off, and it's like, I mean, Book showed us that he is smarter than that, but I guess he feels like this is really important. Um, but what did you think about? Here's the thing. I thought that's the strength of season 4 was that Burnham had kind of stayed within her strong suits in terms of situations. She's been more captainly, and when she has to do things like laugh and be cool, be like one
Yeah.
one of the gang. It's always like, ooh, you know. It's it wasn't. I mean, I think it was last season. There was like, she was just like laughing hysterically, and I'm like, this is really uncomfortable. So it
It
didn't
it
get.
was
Yeah,
uncomfortable.
and I mean, look, she's great, Sonequa Martin Green, but I think she's great at the parameters of Michael Burnham's comfort zone. you know? And I don't know, maybe she would do fine playing another character that way, but it's like there's times where Michael has to stretch, and I'm just like, ooh, this is uncomfortable,
Yeah,
you know?
I absolutely agree. I felt like the poker scene, where I get that she was probably directed to go bigger
Yeah.
and to be sort of so obvious in in her, we're playing this game, and I'm laughing and I'm yucking it up. It just didn't read as real. And I think that's where you lose me. It doesn't read real.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, I mean, we were complaining during the first half of the season, me much more loudly than you, about just in general, the pace was slow. There were episodes that I felt were downright boring. So they did step it up a little bit there. Both of these last two have had a lot more happening, but it's almost like, well, now you tried too much. Where's the happy medium? Because they were dealing with some other, good storylines, like in episode 8. Dr. Culber just sort of trying to deal with, some of the stresses and that sort of thing. And then it's almost like, well, that didn't get time to breathe because we had to, we had to have the Star Wars section of the episode.
Yeah, I really did expect to hear some yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't have surprised me at all, honestly, and I've said it before, that look, the line, obviously, once you brought J.J. Abrams and his team into Star Trek, when clearly what they really wanted to do was Star Wars, as evidenced by the fact that he immediately left and started doing Star Wars. The lines have blurred a lot, and never more in Star Trek Prodigy. As I've said, I literally thought I was watching a Star Wars show, and then I was reminded of, like, oh yeah, right, this is actually a Star Trek show.
I actually only got through the first half of the first episode of Star Trek Prodigy
But
because
then
it
that means you
felt
didn't even see Janeway.
I didn't even see Janeway because I was just like, is this a Star Wars show? Like, I kept checking the title. Is this not Star Wars Prodigy?
What? Which app am I on? I'm so
Yeah.
confused. Is Baby Yoda going to come out? Because if he is, okay, I guess I'll keep watching.
I'll keep watching for Baby Yoda.
Yeah. And I mean, the strength of the supporting characters that we do care about, I think, is one of the best things about this show. And I don't know. I mean, I have a friend who has, his whole life he's been a very big Star Trek fan, and he's just starting to watch this show now because I think, look, he didn't want to pay for Star Trek. I get it. And it's just somebody like taking it all. He's in like the middle of season 2. And I'm just like, yeah, when you take it in all at once, you probably really notice just how all over the place it is. It's very inconsistent because of the fact that they're, in 4 seasons, there have been like 9 showrunners. I might be exaggerating, but also I might not be.
You're not.
There might actually be 9, and it's hard to, like, you can establish that we like these characters, but then somebody else might like something different about them, or they like a different character, and, and I think it was Den of Geek I was reading it. They were going through their synopsis of, I think, episode 8 or 9, and they were like, "So we're just not going to talk about Tilly anymore," because
Right.
I was like, "Where is she?" And Adira's supposed to come back. Like, they were only going for a week, weren't they? Isn't that
Yeah, it
what
was only
Adira said?
supposed to be to take Gray and then come back.
Yeah.
And I got the sense that maybe Gray was back since no, maybe Adira was back since um oh
Well,
God. I can't
Burnham
remember
told
anyone's name.
Stamets to give his work to Reno,
Stamets.
but
Yeah,
Reno was off camera. We didn't see her look up and be like, "What now?" There's just like,
right.
let's just talk about her. And she had said that she was only in a little bit this season because getting in and out of Canada is no small feat, at least especially during the time that they filmed
They were
this.
shooting, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and so I think
But
that I
Stamets
go ahead.
sorry,
No, go ahead.
Stamets told Culber that he was nervous about Gray being on Trill, which made me think Adira must be back.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I didn't think of it that way, but you're probably right. And they're just like, well, we're not going to bring them into this episode, but we're sort of establishing, because I don't know. I mean, when you're trying to get all the brainiacs on the ship to try and do something, you got Stamets and Zora working on something. If Adira was there, wouldn't they have been
Wouldn't she?
involved?
Yeah.
I mean, Tilly being around, Tilly would have also been there. They're basically the smart kids table. Is Tilly, Adira, Stamets, and Zora. I mean, you can't, Zora doesn't need a seat at the table, but it would be nice if you just pulled one
Yeah.
out, and then then you set like an Alexa looking device. Oh, I shouldn't have said her name, because as soon as I say her name, she starts talking to me in the kitchen. But in any case, yeah, and look, I mean, I think that it at least brought some fun, back and forth between both of these episodes. Really, some nice back and forth between Michael and Book, but uh, it was like, okay, this was a little too much, in the casino, but here's the thing: if they'd given me more of the fighting, like if she'd had to fight like two more people, I'd be like, yeah, that's cool. I would have been all right with that. It's really the playing cards. You can never convince me that playing cards is exciting on television. I remember like World Series of Poker used to be on. It used to be on like ESPN2 like all the time, and I was just like, who's watching cards on TV? You know?
Yeah, they
I
did.
mean,
They went a little long on the card play,
yeah,
and also on the. I guess they assumed that you knew how to play Leonine
yeah.
poker because they kept showing us the hands, and I'm like, I don't know how to play this game. Why does that matter?
I know.
Uh,
And if this were like, if this were like an official live Star Trek stream, there'd probably be like 8 people that would tell us which Star Trek novel they explained the rules of the
yeah,
game over
you're
like
so
20
right.
pages. And but yeah, I had that thought too. I was like, is that a good hand? But that's why, like, it was either, I don't know if book one with a flush or Burnham had a flush. It's like, all right, so it's like they threw in a word that, like, even if you don't know poker, you're like, I'm pretty sure I've heard that a flush is good, you
Right.
know. But so it's like it's close enough that they're like, yeah, but yeah, if it was, if the game was played the same as our poker but with different cards, I think we could have figured it out. But it's like, yeah, I like, what does that? There was like some card. I'm like, it was like dun dun. I'm like, what? What does
Right.
that mean? It was like a
Right.
sun face or something. I can't remember
Thanks
what
for
was
the
on it.
musical suspense cue, but we don't know what this means.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like, you unmask someone and it's like, well, who's that? I
Right.
don't even who is that character? Like, oh, don't you remember from the first like 30 seconds of episode 2 and
He
season
walked by
4?
eating an ice cream
Yeah.
cone. Don't
I'm
you
like,
remember that?
no. No, I don't remember. the just quick aside, the worst would always be in comic books where different artists draw people differently, and it's like this person under the map, who is that? Oh, it's that guy. Well, he used to look different.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
but in terms of this, I don't know. I mean, it's the stakes are very high, and that is sort of dual meaning. It's not really a pun, so I feel okay with it. The stakes were high in the game, but the game existed because of these really high stakes. And there was that moment where Michael and Book are able to be like, well, we have to make sure that they're not the ones who get it, the Emerald Chain. And I like that the rules are basically like, no being a jerk at the card table because they got kicked out. And it's like, all right, I don't know why you added that element if it wasn't going to be Michael and Book outsmarting them. And it was got a little of it and it frustrated them. But I thought that was going to be one of those things where she like held on to her cards so that, he would get the right, I don't know. I thought there was going to be something, and I know that they were helping each other, through signals, which apparently the Emerald Chain not very observant,
Right.
because
Like Haas didn't see any of the.
yeah. Yeah, there's the most low rent casino in Vegas has somebody who can watch for that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Um, so this episode was the episode 8 was mostly fun, but really just because of the fighting. I was gonna call it boxing, but that really wasn't boxing. The fighting was great. We really got some good character development there, and that's what always seems to happen. It's like you have you get to shine a little bit of a light on somebody, and then like everybody else gets their time cut. Like I was saying, like Dr. Colbert dealing with something really serious, and it's like, yeah, but whatever, he'll be fine. And I'm sure that they're building to something with that. I mean, this is not the first time where it's like, I think he's a little stressed out. What were some other highlights, or my favorite lowlights for you from episode 8?
I was really struck by, they talked about how Starfleet was not I really expected Owu and Michael to go to this place in civilian clothes because they talked so much about how Starfleet would be not acceptable there, and Starfleet had no jurisdiction there. I kind of expected them to go dressed like civilians. Um, though I'll tell you who got on my nerves: the guy who was like, "What's up, Starfleet?" That guy.
I had that thought when I saw that person.
I was
I was
like,
like, what?
"Why is
But
he necessary?"
yeah, but also you're right. Like, why do they go? And it's like these aren't like casual, original series uniforms where it's like, it's like at least you're wearing the normal pants. It's like this is like what they wear in the 32nd century, 31st century is like fancier than the dressiest dress uniforms in earlier incarnations of the show. So it's like they show up and it's it's like she's shown up for her quinceanera. She's way overdressed for this place. And yeah, and it was like, I mean, do you need to announce that you're with Starfleet? I thought
Yeah.
it really didn't mesh. There's two things were very inconsistent. I definitely agree with you on that. I forgot about that. What's up, Starfleet? But if either of us had the opportunity to have delivered that line in the episode, we'd be like, oh, that was a great moment.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
thanks for bringing me in, bringing me up to
I
Toronto. So
also I
go ahead.
I also really, sorry, I didn't mean to
No, it's
interrupt you.
fine.
Haas told them that they were walking around like Klingons at a disco, and I
Yeah.
spent a good 20 minutes imagining what Klingons at a disco would be, and I I thought that was very humorous.
Yeah. If this show were bigger, maybe somebody would have taken like maybe just stills. You don't have to do it to video. Taking stills from Saturday Night Fever and put like Worf off in the corner, just like standing there. You know how like there's this guy who adds Paddington Bear to. He's been doing it for like almost a year now. He just takes an image from a movie or TV show and he puts Paddington Bear off in the side, the creepy live action Paddington Bear from the more recent movies. And it's great, and it's like it's not even an account I follow. It's just so many people that I follow either retweet it or like it. So yeah, I would like to see Klingons at a disco, and it doesn't have to just be Worf. I would actually like to see like the table of them from Trouble with Tribbles, just being there very disapproving. have them off in the side, uh, you know. And well, Saturday Night Fever seems like the go-to really for that. But yeah, sometimes the show can be a little distracting because then you start putting together little scenes in your head, you know, for stuff that we would have gotten.
Speaking of tribbles,
Yes. Oh yeah,
the
that was
shapeshifter
great.
guy who turned into a tribble and rolled away.
That was a high point, even
That
though it
was
was such a
good.
minor moment. Yeah. The you'd think that if you've lived your life as a shapeshifter, you'd be better at not getting caught. But I guess what do I know? I'm just trying to. I want to make sure that because obviously this episode largely sets up the confrontation at the DMA in this next episode. And of course, Michael losing, I mean, much like Jim Kirk, she can figure her way out of the unwinnable situation. She knew she wasn't going to win because Book was so good at cards. So she's like, great, I'm just going to cheat and put a tracking device on this thing. And the ease with which she did that was nice, but that's all right. It tracks. I think it made sense.
It did.
And that'll bring us into episode 9. Is there anything? Because see, I even forgot about the Tribble until you mentioned it. Is there anything that we should touch on from episode 8 before we move on? I don't want to leave anything hanging. And if you're watching in the chat and you have thoughts on episode 8, we can always go back and forth. So let us know your thoughts. But is there anything that you can think of that we haven't touched on yet?
I don't think so. I think we covered, like you said, this episode was a great setup for episode 9. And all we really needed to get from this episode was how Book got the isolinium,
Yeah.
and we got that. But the benefits of getting to see Owu kick ass
Yeah.
made the episode worth it for me. That was the joy in this
It,
one for
it
me.
outweighed anything that I was, you know what, that, like if you put it on scales, like the fight sequences just so far outweigh the "What's up, Starfleet?"
Right.
It's like it completely negates something dumb like that. And I guess this is sort of building on this interaction with species 10C, which I foolishly thought we were going to see in episode 9. But they're like, nah, we're still working on it. And sometimes you wonder, I'm like, man, at this point in the season, did they even know what species 10C was? Is that why they keep pushing it off? Like, yeah, we'll just go home for the weekend. We'll figure out what species 10C is. It's not a great name, species 10C. As bad a name as isolinium is, species 10C is just completely lacking in any kind of creativity, as far as I'm concerned.
Do you remember the episode of Next Generation where they found that species that existed in like a different plane of existence, and they crawled on the outside of the ship, but they were in a
Oh,
different, like a almost a different space.
yeah, I
Remember
think I
that?
know which one you're talking about, and I feel like if Craig were with us today, he'd jump in and tell us what
You would
episode
know
that
what it.
was.
Yeah,
But
but the whatever they named that species was
yeah,
better than species 10C.
yeah, it's almost like it's like you put species 10C. Technically, they're unknown species 10C. Like that's the full name. So that's the sort of thing you put in your script where you're like, yeah, I'm going to go back and I'll do find and replace 10C and put in the real name later. Like obviously this show will veer off onto things sometimes. One of my wife's professors for screenwriting at USC was the guy who wrote the movie Air Force One. And Harrison Ford saying, "Get off my plane," was a line that he's like, I'm definitely going to go back and replace that. That's so stupid that he would say that. And then it was just like, I can't think of everything better. And then, some suit who read it was like, no, this is great. Don't change it. So it's like sometimes when you don't change it, you're like, oh, I didn't think anybody was going to read that I wrote unknown species 10-C. But I thought that it was very interesting, sort of the back and forth. I mean, it was really like a dance between Michael and Book. What did you think of episode 9, the Rubicon? Or it's just called Rubicon, sorry.
Yeah, episode 9 was really. First of all, I was excited to see Non.
Yes.
I was excited to see her come back. I was.
Sometimes you feel like they forget about people, like Tilly.
Yeah,
But
right.
yeah. So it was good to see her, and in a way that made complete sense. They gave us a little bit more of her story. I agree with you. It was good to have her back.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved watching Reese and Bryce argue.
Yes.
That was really good. Uh,
I was like, get a room, you two.
okay.
Obviously, we know why you're fighting.
But mostly, I think the thing that I was most struck by was they went to all of that trouble to stop Tarka from launching the weapon, and then within seconds, like that, I didn't understand how Book could let him near the control panel again after
Yeah.
he'd sent that torpedo array. So I was like, why did you remove him from the bridge or remove him from the console so he couldn't access your
Yeah,
ship?
there has to be a way to set it to only Books,
Right.
whatever, his hands can control it, you know? And yeah, that would be the moment where it's like, you did almost get a shot at. And it's interesting because Tarka never knew the stakes in terms of the Discovery has somebody that's not Michael on the bridge that will fire on you because, duty over everything. That might not have been what the wording was, but it
It
was,
was
it's,
duty over duty above all.
yeah, duty above all. And it's one of those, that's a great Star Trek concept, like absolute candor. I'm just like, this is cool. I like this, that it's like, yeah. So he never even knew that it's like, if you try to do this, you're going to get shot. Like Michael didn't hold that up over Book, and even after they got shot at, it was like, well, we're just going to try to stop you. And I was surprised that it didn't come up at any point, because I think if Tarka knew that, he either would have done that much sooner or maybe not at all. He would have tried to figure out another way to do it. I was surprised that they stood down so quickly, and that, Non wasn't still there, well,
with her
actually,
finger.
Non wasn't
It
the one
was
who was going to do it. It was either Bryce or Reese. I
Bryce
actually
or
forget.
Reese. Yeah,
Yeah, and they were, and we even saw, like, I'm putting my finger right by the screen. He was like that. He was like, I'm ready,
right.
and it's like, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to put my hand down. I'm like, really, already? Like, what, people don't lie in the 32nd century, and I was surprised that it was able to still happen, but then also the fact that Non just kind of shrugged it off, and she wasn't more mad about, like, if you'd listened to me and we had destroyed them, yeah, you would have been sad. But obviously, if he's gonna ruin a first contact and steal top secret information, maybe, just maybe, Book's not that into you. What do you think about the way that it all played out? I was very surprised, not so much that Tarka hit the button anyway, but that didn't result in, well, we have a way to stop that, so Book blows up after it seems like everything's okay. I actually really thought that's where it was going. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be the worst, because he's like, okay, yeah, I'll give you a week, and then he would have ended up dying anyway. What did you think about the way it actually played out?
I was a little confused at the lack of reaction, the
Yeah.
lack of, like just seconds ago, Non was ready to blow them out of the sky.
Yeah, it was almost like she had an itchy trigger fingers. Like, can we do it? Can we do it now? How about now? Can I kill him? Can I kill somebody? Anybody?
I'm pressing it. I'm gonna press it. I'm gonna press it. I'm gonna. No, I really felt like there should have been. They should have. They should have taken Tarka into custody. They should have taken Tarka and Book into custody. Something should have happened. I kept expecting a tractor beam to like take Book's ship so that he couldn't, like, what, why was it possible for Book to go away, for them to fly off into space and not get. I just would have thought that they would have been detained in some way.
Yeah,
So
and also, I mean, I guess the fact that it was this isolinium, and they set up very early that there's this interference in there. So once it was fired, I guess you couldn't transport it because we'd have to send it somewhere. And a lot of times in Star Trek, if you need to get rid of something, you can send it to the center of like a sun. But I feel like this explosion would have like wiped out a sun and therefore like all the planets. So I don't know what the fix was, but I was surprised that it was just like he's giving. I think Den of Geek described it as he's giving like a Bond villain style speech where Tarka's really explaining. He's like over explaining, and Book's just looking at him like, huh? Like,
right,
like, can't you tell what he's ramping up to?
right,
You know,
exactly.
it's like reading all these pages of Shakespeare, like, oh my god, he stabbed himself. I didn't know that that's why he was talking about this. I would have stopped him if I'd known it was coming over the last 3 pages. So yeah, I mean, I think if I don't know, it's almost like they clearly are going to try to, well, not try, I'm sure they're going to figure out a way that Book can still seem like a good guy, and they kind of did. I think it would have really been interesting for his character if he's like, I'm sorry, this is just too important, and he was the one who did it, and he was like,
Mm.
we can't. But I don't know. I mean, they established how well he knew Michael, so he probably knew there was some kind of, they had some kind of failsafe. But at the same time, if your Book, Nikki, wouldn't you just assume that like she's not going to blow me up? I have that working in my favor.
No, I think that he knows that she, if it came down to it, she would let it happen. I think, like you said, he didn't know that they had this failsafe, but like I think he knows on some level that if she had to, she would let him die if that was necessary.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But I do feel like it would have made more sense had she said to him, we know how to destroy your ship. We're going to destroy your ship if you don't stand down now. I thought it was a little too much emphasis placed on it was like the third or fourth time that Book had that Burnham had said, "No, I think I could talk him down,"
Yeah.
and she had been unsuccessful 3 times before.
Yeah, and Non made the point of like, why do you think giving him new information is going to have a different reaction than the last time you gave her new information?
Right.
And I do think I understand from Book's point of view. He's like, all right, it's not this moment, it's not now or never. They've given us a week. And I think that obviously it wouldn't have made for as interesting television if Tarka had been locked out and not able to fire it and it just ended, because then it's like, well, they're just hanging out on Discovery for a week, and I mean, Burnham did give the assurance that, look, the president of the Federation is on board, that we can destroy it if we're not able to get a satisfactory first contact in a week. And who knows, if you'd tried to make first contact, maybe they would shoot on sight and it would have gone worse. We'll find out maybe next week, but if I know this show, it'll be at least 2 weeks before we actually get to see, the ending of next week's episode. They'll be like looking at the view screen of like, oh, it's unidentified species 10C, and then just the title card comes up, and we're like, okay, so we'll see it again next week. They won't even show us a glimpse of it. But yeah, I think that it dealt with, and I thought it was interesting. It seemed like they hit this a little too hard. I agree that I really like the disagreement between Reese and Bryce, but then it came up again on the bridge, and it's like, to have Saru say multiple times, no matter what you think, you have to follow your orders. I'm like, yeah, I know, we know, you already said that like 8 minutes
Right.
ago. Like, get a new rap, Saru. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, it is interesting, you can see, but there was that moment. Michael really was just hoping for like, oh, can we get like 5 more seconds before I have to say destroy a ship? And then that's literally when Stamets is like, hey, I got something. You're like, okay. So
Right.
clearly. But I don't know. Were there points in the episode where you thought that they were going to destroy Book's ship? I thought right at the last minute, I'm like, oh, I think we might actually get that. And maybe I'm just a sucker, though.
I did not think they were going to actually destroy the ship. I did. I No, I really didn't think that they would destroy the ship. I believed that they would find a way.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I was struck by, or the thing that kind of nags at me, is why Book never told Burnham that Tarka's real motivation is this power source and not just stopping the DMA, but that he wants this power source. Like, why he didn't tell Burnham that, so that she understood that they had different agendas with this,
I
with
think,
their
yeah,
pursuit.
I agree with you 100%. I just wonder if it's because he knows that because he has a different agenda, Michael might successfully talk him out of it,
Mm,
because that clearly bothers him. And I don't know. I mean, we'll have the fallout of it next week. That's like, it was basically, it was like almost one of those Twilight Zone endings for Tarka. It's like, okay, so the DMA is gone. Actually, really for both of them. So the DMA is gone. Boom, here's a new one. Oh, and by the way, Tarka, the power source you wanted, it's at the other side of the
other side.
wormhole. You
Yeah.
big dummy. you know. Uh,
Giant douche. No, it's
yeah. I would have loved to have. I would have loved to have heard Saru. Sort of the essentially the Mr. Spock of the show. Like, oh, you are a giant douche. see if I could get a cameo from Doug Jones. I'm like, can you say the words
giant
giant douche
douche.
in Saru's voice? You don't have to say that anyone is. I just want to hear you say it as Saru. You don't have to put the makeup on. It's fine. I just want to hear it. But speaking of Saru, let's talk about the fun part of this episode, and it has been going
Ooh.
on. Well, not quite yet, but they've been building up to it with President Tarina, and she's like, So, do you want to do you want to meet me down at the malt shop for a milkshake? I mean, it was like, and he was just like, I do not know what to think, you know.
Yeah.
And look, if you have any problems with matters of the heart, you should always go to a cast member from My So-Called Life, because clearly they are the ones who know the most. Even Jared Leto. You go right to Ricky, and he's going to be able to tell you that, and it was one of those things that I think, sure, he's a captain, he's a superior officer, and he's just like, I'm gonna just have to tell you you're being an idiot. And I'm like, I really liked that scene,
Yeah,
and
so did I.
mostly because I'm like, oh, come on, Saru, what are you doing? At least go out on a Tinder date with her, I mean, see how it goes, and I was surprised by that, because I almost felt like, it's like, oh, I could really use some help with a meditation. That is just a variation on like a line that I would try with girls in college, and it didn't usually work.
Right.
It's it's like, can we relax? Can we take a nap? And she's like, of course, that sounds great. Um, so I was surprised that like it got to the point where she like took some initiative, and then he's like, oh, okay, now I'm getting scared. Maybe, I don't know. What do you think it is? Do you think he's just scared?
I think he's just scared.
Yeah.
I think he um because he is the most Spock-like character,
Yeah.
there's this part of him I think that is, like, this is my duty and this is my life around my duty, and then this is my romantic stuff, and I can't let them mix. And so yeah, I mean I could see him having some intimidation there. Like, this is a very powerful woman,
Yeah.
and there's a huge power difference between their stations in life. Um but I think it'll be good for him, and I got a little teary-eyed because I was like, I just thought it was so cute that
Yes.
he was so nervous, and that I thought it was so adorable, and I'm hoping that he does say yes and that he does go on the date. Um,
Yeah.
it's cute.
Yeah, I hope they take a cooking class together, or, like
A
one of those
pottery
things that they
class.
would have you do on like on one of those old dating shows from like the early 2000s. It's like,
Yeah.
we're going to have you go to an old ghost town, you know? And it's like, all right. Yeah, and it's easy to forget, but when Saru was introduced, Kelpians in general were terrified of everything, and
Mhm.
then sort of there was that whole storyline about the aspect of their evolution that was held back. But and then, I mean, I have they, and it's hard to keep track because it's 4 seasons, but I feel like it's over like 6 years, but I might be, I'm not even sure. So have they established, has he had a love interest at any point in his life? It doesn't seem like this is a species where, they have like arranged marriages or anything like that. And, even Vulcans obviously have some sort of, I mean, you got baby Vulcans, so obviously something happens, But is there anything that we've seen from him? They talked about his character. Like, basically, what I'm asking is, he had a girlfriend before.
Not that we know of.
Yeah,
So this may be a first for him. This may
yeah,
be, and then an interspecies relationship on top of that.
yeah.
That's got to be some stress.
And I
I don't know
mean,
what biases are out there now in the 32nd century, but
yeah.
like, is
And
it
for
socially
Tarina, it's like,
acceptable?
do you really want to get involved with a guy who already has a kid? I mean, I know it's not literally
Who
his
already
kid,
has a
but
fully grown kid?
yeah,
Right.
exactly. It's like their adult son is going to be like staying on the couch and hitting you up for money, you know? And I don't know. And the fact that they mentioned, I actually forget that character's name. I'm really bad at this stuff sometimes.
His name is Kaal. No,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Cabal.
Yeah, it's a bad name, whatever it is. That's probably why I forgot it. But the fact that he came up again, remember we saw him in the first episode of the season. Like, all right, we're gonna get back. We're obviously getting back around to him. Maybe not Tilly, but yeah. So it'll be. I do hope, even if like they need to, get through all the A story, And if the last scene of the season is they, sit down and they have dinner, to me, like the dinner on Navarre it's clearly going to be outside with rocks all around. It's like going out to eat in Scottsdale. It's gonna be like 112 degrees. It's dusty, but I hope we get that scene before the end of the season.
I do too.
Yeah, and I think we will, but you never know. You never know with this show. So unidentified species 10C, very annoyed. Should be annoyed. We don't actually know that. We should assume that it's like, now I got to send another one of our DMAs. And
I thought to myself that perhaps they don't even realize that somebody intentionally blew up their DMA. They probably just have an automated system that's like, the DMA in sector whatever just went down, and we pop another one out there.
right. Yeah, you know what? I didn't think of it that way. It's almost like when as a kid, we used to go on vacation. My dad would set this timer so that our lights would go on at different times in the house, like in the evening, so people would think that we were home. And obviously there's no one there to do this. So clearly this species is more advanced than the clapper that my dad had in our house where you could set the time on it. So but I didn't think of that for a second. They might not even know. They might make first contact and then be like, "Wait, you did what to our DMA?"
Right.
It's like it's like, hold me back, because now there's, and I mean, I am intrigued. Terrible name of the species aside, I assume that they do identify as something and they'll give it to us, because it's like, when you think of the history of Star Trek, sort of the escalation of some of these species, I had kind of thought we had maxed out with the Borg, in terms of, just sort of a terrifying high contact, high technology sort of species. So when you've given yourself, I mean, what is this? This is like 800 years after Next Generation. No, not quite. It's like the 600 or whatever. But whatever the case, so it's like, all right, so there's been a lot more time for advancement, especially in other parts of the galaxy. Do you think we're going to be let down by species 10C?
I hope not.
Yeah, me too.
I hope not. I agree with you. It's going to be hard to top the threat that the Borg was. And they would have to be pretty big and bad to be Borg threat worthy. But I think that they could end up being the most peaceful people that they've ever met, and they maybe have no idea that
Oh,
their
yeah.
Boronite
Yeah, what if they're
Greg
just like
is.
super advanced, like the hippies from like This Side of Paradise, the original series episode, And it's like
Yeah, right.
they're like, oh no, man, that's cool. We get it. No, we got another DMA. It's all right. And they could be. Oh, I think Tommy Chong passed, and I was like, oh, they could be played by Tommy Chong. He might even still be alive. Sorry if I don't know. Hope Tommy's out there. But hey, in the chat, William Walton, great question. Given that Tarka is from an alternate universe, do you think he has a counterpart in the main universe, and will we see them? Um, I I don't I don't I don't know if I want that actor to have to play two versions of the same character, which is, but he'd probably be very similar. What do you think, Nikki? Do you think that there is another Tarka that we might see?
I don't think we'd see it.
Yeah.
I don't think we'd see him. Um, the whole idea of him trying to get back to this other plane of existence, this other universe. I think if he had a counterpart in this universe, he would have encountered him already or killed him already.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. And, maybe it's like the alternate Picard, if he'd never gotten into that fight in Starfleet Academy where he's like, a low-level ensign in his like late 50s, So like this Tarka, maybe, maybe he's, I don't know, maybe he's like mopping the floors at like I don't know, a McKlingon burger or somewhere, and he just never had the right opportunities. I wish I'd come up with a better name than that, but I was feeling
I
the
like
pressure.
McKlingon.
Good. Thank you. I
I really
appreciate
like
that.
it a lot.
That's very kind. Um, anyway, so it'll be interesting to see where this goes. I have lost track of how many episodes we have left, but I assume that it ends the week before Picard starts. So next week would be episode 10. So I think that I'm assuming it's a 13 episode season because of when we've been told that Picard is
It's starting.
going to premiere. Yeah,
Right.
because next week would be 10. Yeah, so and because I think Picard is March 25th, so I think that this show would end on March, well, not 18th, but the 17th. Oh, happy St. Patrick's Day. I think that'll be the finale, and so it. I wonder where it's going. I guess we know that there is a 5th season of Discovery, so it might be left in an unsatisfactory way. I think that they've usually done a good job of ending each season. The season-long arcs do seem to conclude, but I have faith that I mean, they've at least upped the momentum on the show a little bit since it's come back from the break. Where do you hope that we see it go over the next month or so?
I hope that I hope I hope we get to see Unknown Species 10C before the last episode. I would like to not have to wait till the last episode to see them.
Right.
I think Tarka's going to get killed.
Yeah. I think you're right.
And
By book, by the way.
By book.
I think Book's going to have to kill him, yeah.
Yeah. I 100% agree.
Yeah. Or Grudge, you know, helping Book. Yeah, Grudge with like a dagger in
his
Grudge is a girl, right? We've established.
Yes, she's queen.
I didn't. Yeah, that's right. I didn't want to misgender
the cat.
Another member of this series. Yeah. So Grudge with like a dagger in her teeth, one of those like little those like mini Klingon daggers, just right up there, and it's like Book's like I was gonna do it. But anyway, sorry, I went off there a little bit, but yeah, I think that I think Book's gonna have to kill him. I agree.
Yeah.
All right, so those are our 2 episodes, and I believe we'll be back in this spot next week. I'll have to talk to Nikki about the week after, but there is one fun, just general Star Trek thing that I wanted to talk about on Twitter. Nicholas Meyer, who people know as the writer and director of Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan, he puts, and he also directed Undiscovered Country. What's your favorite Star Trek movie? We'll repost the best answers. Now, when you're the guy who's responsible for what most people think is the best Star Trek movie, are you just fishing for the compliments of like, well, everybody's going to say Wrath of Khan? So here's what my answer is. And I didn't mention to Nikki that we were going to do this because I wasn't sure if we were going to have time. So I'll let you think about it. So for me, I'm going to say the best Star Trek movie is Wrath of Khan, just from story structure. Even Ricardo Montalban, like, just taking huge chunks out of the scenery, just way overacting. It's still great for that character. So I think that's the best Star Trek movie. My favorite Star Trek movie, I go back to when I was a kid, will always be Star Trek 4, the voyage home, the whales, being in the present day, all the jokes, Spock getting into the tank, remember where we parked. The humor in that movie is a rarity for Star Trek, because in the next movie, The Voyage Home, which is unquestionably the worst Star Trek movie, the only movie that William Shatner's ever directed, by the way, the humor just doesn't work at all. It's like, it's gags like Scotty saying, like, I know the ship like the back of my hand, and then he turns around and hits his head on a beam. And I was like, poor Jimmy Doohan. He deserved better than that. He didn't pass away for quite a while after that, but still, he deserved better than that.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's fun. Spock was newly back to basically reincarnated, so he had kind of lost a couple of steps in the evolution of the character. For me, it's the most fun. Oddly enough, it's the Star Trek movie without an Enterprise in it, because spoiler from 1983, spoiler that they blew up the Enterprise in Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. So for me, that's always been my favorite. I think that Undiscovered Country is also phenomenal, and First Contact is also great, and then it sort of falls off my list after that. The first J.J. Abrams was fun, but that's me basically saying, like, well, she has a nice personality. What's your favorite Star Trek movie, Nikki? And
My
anybody in the chat, William Walton, if you're still there, tell us your favorite Star Trek movie. Craig, if you're watching the archive, let us know after the fact.
my favorite Star Trek movie is First Contact.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the one that I've rewatched over and over and over. Um, and I feel like I get something new out of it every time I watch it. So I love that one.
yeah. You know what? Honestly, I haven't seen it in a while. Of course, I own it on Blu-ray because that's yeah. And look,
Because obviously.
all these movies that end up on streaming, and yes, if it's on Paramount Plus, it would make sense that it's not leaving. But a lot of times, movies do disappear from the streaming service that you
Hmm.
think that they're supposed to be on, and then sometimes they'll go and make minor adjustments to movies. And look, sometimes it's because just something didn't age well in a movie from like the 50s. I get it, but at the same time, it's like I don't know. I like the to bring it back to Star Wars, the number of times they've changed those original movies. I'm like, they're gonna change them again. You know what? I'm done. I just want them to look consistently when I show them to my kids. I don't want to be surprised by some, new cartoon alien that's like everybody's best friend. So yeah. So anyway, I have First Contact. I have not watched it in a while. But I remember how excited I was, especially after the letdown of Generations.
Oof.
Like what did we want since like basically for the 10 years from like 1987 to 1997? What do we want? Man, what if they could ever figure out a way if Kirk and Picard got together? Well, you know what they would do? They would make breakfast. And I was like, oh, really? Okay. So that was a huge letdown. But First Contact, I think, was great. And it like that's the level of quality where you're like, this is why they stopped doing the show so that they could do movies. And then they never made a movie that even came
That came
close to
close to
being
it
as
at
good.
all.
Like
Yeah.
Insurrection to me isn't even bad. It's just not special enough to have been a movie, you know? It,
Yeah.
it's also not great, but and that no, it's is it Nemesis? They blow up the Enterprise again, right?
Yep.
Yeah. It's like enough already, the poor ship has been through so much. All right, so First Contact, I think I don't think anybody's going to disagree is a great one. The putting Wrath of Khan at the top. I know people who hate Star Trek 4, and it seemed like you don't like it as much as I do, Nikki.
You know, I thought it was kind of cheesy. So it just never did it for me.
Yeah. Well, I was 11 when I saw it in the movie theater, so it was like in the sweet spot for me because it was like had a little bit of naughty language in it, and obviously I love those characters. But yeah, I also have not watched Star Trek 4 in a while. Oddly enough, I think I watched Undiscovered Country within the last like 5 years, but it's been a while. In any case, let us know your favorite Star Trek movie whenever you're watching this. Put it in the comments. You can tweet me at Christian DMZ, and of course, as you can see, at Nikki Bailey _. That underscore is just hanging out right there. It's
Just
like,
chilling.
yeah, it's like, it's not Nikki _Bailey. What would that do? So we
That
put it
one
there.
was, believe it or not, already taken. So there
Oh,
it is.
yeah. You know what? My name on Twitter was taken at Christian Bladt because there's like a handful of people in the world all live in Denmark with my name, and one of them was a professional boxer. And he was undefeated for his first like 20 fights, just like me, undefeated my first 20 fights. Yeah. And it's funny sometimes when you can't get something,
Yeah.
but in any case, Nikki, that I just told people where they can keep in touch with you. But they can find us back here next week. And please subscribe to the Blackcast YouTube channel. We have our show Marvel Movie Talk on Wednesdays. And our political show Biden Times, but it's like kind of on an every 2-week schedule right now, and I think it's going to stay like that for a little while. But for the flagship show, the Blackcast, we just did our review of Book of Boba Fett, and you can find that on the YouTube channel. And that's all I can say about Book of Boba Fett. But next week we're going to talk about Peacemaker on HBO Max, which is one of my favorite shows in a long time. So
Really?
yes, I was not expecting much. I'm not a wrestling fan at all, so John Cena being in it was actually a deterrent. But it's James Gunn who did the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and I should have known that I should have faith in him. So
All right. So I'll
yeah.
check it out. I haven't watched it yet. So all right.
Well, it's the whole like first season is done, so you could watch all 8 of them if you're enjoying it. If not, then
Okay.
you're gonna have to stop. But in any case, thank you everyone. Thank you to Nikki. We will see you next time, and as always, live long and prosper.